To begin, I'll tell you that I inherited the title of Duke from my mother, Duchess Vianne, as the oldest and only child of the last person to hold the title. I gained it when she passed away 2 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that, January. It must have been hard for you. The corners of January's mouth droop down, and he slowly nods. But that is behind us now. In any case, the reason I was in Mar yesterday was to meet with the mayor. Why was that is irrelevant. You don't need to say anything about it if asked. Otherwise, I spend all my time at my family's home on the surface. And I suppose that is about the whole of it. There isn't much else in my life worth noting. Thank you very much for explaining all that to me. I'll be sure to keep it in mind and to continue acting as best that I can as a bodyguard. I'm sure you'll do wonderfully. And I'll do what I can to divert attention away from you as well, so that you aren't forced to answer questions you aren't prepared for. You're so thoughtful and caring. It's the least I could do. More impressive is the way you're putting up with all this. It must be difficult dealing with so many changes so rapidly. In some way it is. However, it is overall a major improvement to my previous life, and I'm certain I'll be able to manage normal society soon enough. After all, you'll be there to help me. Of course I'll be there for anything that you need. I wish there was more I could do in return. Being with me is far more than enough. Oh, January, I feel the same. Pepper clears her throat, conspicuously drawing our attention. That didn't seem like it was going to end soon, and it's been a while, so I was thinking we should switch the radio back on for a bit. January and I instantly cease speaking and nods wordlessly. Pepper then flips the switch behind, turning the radio back on. We continue in an awkward stillness for a couple of minutes, going out of our way to make few noises such as shuffling or coughing. I even throw in a dissatisfied sigh for authenticity. The radio is then switched back off. That was no very long time. Will it be enough? I agree. Is there a reason you care so little about following the orders of the police, or is a lack of respect for the law more common in your society than I had assumed? Pepper laughs slightly at our concern. You could say I have a reason. Yes, simply being difficult. I say no reason we must have our end of the radio on indefinitely. I'd wager they're worried about what we'll say behind their back, or perhaps they feel as though it's only fair that we remain in silence since they have to. Either way, it's not a horrible thing if we talked amongst ourselves. Well then, what shall we discuss next? Whatever you two want. I see. Will you be joining our discussion? I hope not. Only if I get something to say. Don't feel so obligated to include me. Good. I'm not sure I'm capable of ignoring someone in a room like that. My dear January is such a sweetheart. All right then, I don't have an opinion on the topic, so you'll have to pick. What do you two have in mind? If I could decide, I would most like to talk about Val. I'd like to talk about you, January. How should we choose? Why don't we talk about Val? The Duke told us some about himself earlier. Would that be all right, Val? Of course, I don't mind at all. It's settled. Indeed, is there anything you'd like to know? January's eyes then cloud over and he looks away from me. What's wrong? Well, you see, I have a question I've thought of asking, but I'm not certain of its propriety. Ask me anything. There's nothing I'd wish to keep from you. He continues to look at me with that heart-wrenching expression for a few moments before finally breaking the silence. I wonder, did you ever wish that you lived in normal society instead? Oh, truthfully, not until I saw my own future. Normal society had no appeal before then, no offense intended. So where you lived before was nice? His expression had become somewhat complicated. I'm not sure what answer he's hoping to hear. Yes, I was quite comfortable back in the sanctuary. I'm glad. Suddenly it strikes me that we're likely going to have meals together. I hadn't thought about that. Earlier, while we were at the station, January insisted we stayed in our room and not interact with the police until the others arrived. Because of that, neither of us had anything to eat whilst we were there. Not that I minded. He was only being concerned for me. Besides, I've been far too excited to notice any hunger pains. Still, January and I's first meal together. What a wondrous occasion. Do normals have meal together? Oh, well, it depends. I can tell both January and Piper are surprised by the sudden change in topic. However, I simply continue on. What does it depend on? The person, I suppose. I see. Do you eat with others, January? Yes, for almost every meal. I prefer it that way. Fascinating. Could you tell me more about meals in your house? Of course, that is what you like. Preparing meals is a shared responsibility. Almost everyone has a turn-taking part. You don't have a private chef? No, bringing someone to the surface just to do the cooking would be a bit superfluous. How silly of me not to realize that's overdoing it. Let him continue. You're saying, January? So not everyone has the same amount of cooking prowess. Meals can get rather interesting on certain people's turns. That sounds very fun, I think. Do you cook? I don't have as much time to do it as I used to, but yeah, I cook. I'm not terribly impressive, though. I wouldn't say I'm bad either. Amazing. You must tell me more about the times you prepared dinner. Certainly. We go on with this for some distance, with Piper occasionally interrupting us to turn the radio on. It makes for a very pleasurable ride. After a while, I begin to actually feel hungry. It's hard to tell the time in this confined carriage, so I haven't the slightest idea when we should have a meal. Piper, could you turn the radio on and ask Kia about meals? I want to know when we will get to eat. Not a bad idea, especially after that last conversation. She brings her finger to the switch. Act natural. Hi, Kia. I just thought of something. What are we going to do about meals? There's a slight crackle before the voice on the other end comes through. The rations are stored in the passenger area of the carriage. Eat whatever you want. Good to know, though I wouldn't be that liberal with our supplies. We may have more than needed, but it's still the only food we have out there. Right. Forget what I said about eating whatever you want. There are gonna be limits. Are you gonna eat with us then, Officer Kia? I'll eat when we stop for the evening. We have to keep moving for now. In that case, we're gonna have lunch. Fine, just do it quietly. I don't want all the noises to distract you. Maybe we should turn the radios off while we eat. The radios stay on. Oh my god. Alright, I was just checking. Pepper quickly flips the radio off and turns to us. I'll be keeping this on for now. As soon as we're finished, I'll turn it off again. Sound good? January and I both nod, and Piper swiftly hits the switch. Cat can be so difficult. Start looking for the food then, you two. The two of us turn around and begin searching. He up high and me down low. After a moment, he announces that he's discovered something and pulls down a box. What's on the menu? Seems like mostly packages of preserved foods and some fruit. You should each have one bag and one piece of fruit. That would be the healthiest thing. Whatever you say. I reach into the box and pull out 3 packages, handing one over to Piper and another to January, while he picks up 3 pieces of fruit and gives one to each of us. Piper bites into her fruit, an apple, but sets the package aside without apparent interest. I frown at the packages. Maybe we could stop after all. How are we expected to eat this whilst in a moving vehicle? Piper and Kia both say no at nearly the same moment. But if we stop, you could join our meal, Officer Kia. I told you I'm fine. I had plenty this morning, and we've got to get as close to the halfway point as possible today. It was a kind offer of you, January. January smiles at me, reaffirming my belief that there is no one else in this world I need. While January begins eating his fruit, I turn away so that neither he nor Piper can see my front. I then lift my mask and just slightly so that I can take a bite of my fruit. A pear. Are you all right, Val? I quickly pull my hood further forward. Certainly. This is just how I have to eat. Thank you for asking. What do you mean? What are you doing in there? I sigh loudly, making a clear effort for Kia to hear it. I have to eat sitting on the floor and put the container on the seat. There is not much room in here. Can you understand that? Oh, January leans forward towards me and speaks softly. I'm sorry, Val, I didn't mean to trouble you. I should have realized. Don't worry, it's not a problem. We continue to eat our fruit in silence for a time until January chuckles slightly. It seems like all of us are hesitating to eat the packaged food. Why, there's nothing wrong with that food. You all shouldn't be so picky. I examine the package again and think the food looks dry and very unappetizing. I think I'll have another piece of fruit, actually. We don't have endless food, you know. Pepper should not have given Kia that little bit of advice. Of course, they take the concept too far. There's plenty here for 2 days. Look, if you're set on it, eat your entire meal now, and then if you still have an appetite, you can maybe have another fruit as a snack before dinner. You shouldn't just eat fruit for lunch. I groan and looking dismally at the packaged food. Finishing this seems an impossible challenge. There's a slight nudge against my shoulder, and January offers the rest of his apples to me. With a bright smile behind my mask, I accept it. Thank you. For what? Not you. Not ever you. January was gracious enough to share his fruit with me. No, not allowed. Give it back. What? I can do what I wish with my portion of the supplies. I disagree. You're much bigger than Val. Or any of us, really. And should be eating the most. Val is just being childish. Actually, is one of each even going to be enough? I doubt that those serving sizes were designed with giants in mind. Kia mumbles something too quiet to make out distinctly, something about forgetting just how big those food rations are. I look with new disappointment at my apple. Kia's right, January. I can't take this. I would never forgive myself if you went hungry for my sake. I feel the same, and believe me, I'm quite all right with this package. There's no excuse. You may feel fine now, but what about later? Yes, I had my own already. Here, take it back. January appears to resist again when Piper speaks up. Really? Well, being so particular. If the dude gets hungry later, we can always pull out more food. When I said we should be careful, this was not what I had in mind. Piper's interjection stops our conversation entirely, and we all say nothing for a moment. Right, you definitely should say something if you get hungry, January. This trip is for you after all. You should get to eat as much as you like. Don't get that carried away. We still need to be careful. After a pause, Kia continues. I think you should eat an extra piece of fruit with your food package, Duke. That should be good. Does that mean I can have... No, eat your package and that's it. And no sharing. Fine, I'm eating it. Great, but remember you're supposed to keep quiet. The mood on my meal ruined by Kia, we finish our lunches in silence. Why are they so strict? The carriage ride dragged on for a while, but never seemed dull. After our awkward meal, we were able to resume our chatting, turning the radio on and off as necessary. Eventually, Kia calls in over the radio and says it's time to find a place to stop. We follow the gadabout to a spot beside a river sheltered by trees that allow the waning light of evening to filter in. As we pull into the clearing, both vehicles come to a stop and we all exit. Oh, finally. January stretches his long limbs with a gratified sigh. It must be difficult for him to spend so long scrunched up like that. Splendid. This is really just splendid. We should set up a fire and have a proper campsite. It's really not cold enough to justify taking the time to start a fire. Besides, we don't want to be seen, and that would be a dead giveaway. January frowns, and I pat his shoulder consolingly. Don't worry, we'll have a campfire on our own another time, I'm sure. Kia walks over towards us, their brow bunched up. You all did a good job keeping quiet during the trip, better than I would have expected. Their tone is more suspicious than pleased. I scoff. What did you expect? We're professionals, after all. Kia just stares, but I can tell they have not been convinced. If we weren't setting up a fire, then I will head down to the river. Hold on. There's no reason to do that either. You should head back into the carriage and stay out of sight. After all that time? No, I would prefer not to. Yes, besides, no one can see us now. I'm pretty certain no one followed us. There should be no danger in letting him stay outside for a bit. Why let our guard down? Someone could begin watching us at any time. In fact, they should really go back too. Your look is a bit conspicuous, even if most won't know exactly what it means. January and I both remain where we are, and I fold my arms in dissatisfaction. I know it's a pain, but it's better than being abducted, right? If you have any personal business to take care of, you can do that quickly. Other than that, I don't see why you need time outside. Oh, okay, so that is what she meant. Okay. Yeah, both of you are gonna have to go back to the carriage. That's in order. Why should we listen now just because you order it? Because I'm the only one here with any authority. Making decisions is my responsibility. Listening to others' jokes. January looks at me for what to do now, and I in turn focus on Piper. She shrugs. Technically, Kia is right about that. It would be less troublesome for all of us if you two didn't openly defy Kia's orders. Kia gives Piper a sidelong look. Openly? What are you trying to say with that? Piper just straightens her dress without looking at Kia. It's been settled. You two need to head back to the carriage. Kia's eyes reveal their irritation with the way she ignored her question, but the conversation has clearly moved on. January turns his head away from us, still unconvinced. I see no harm in it. Hey, I told you to get back inside. Fine. I will let you stretch your leg for a little while, but then it's back in the carriage. January gives no sign he even heard Kia, so I start to follow him, briefly responding to Kia as I walk off. That sounds more reasonable. I'm going to have my lunch now. Pepper sighs, then I hear her following January and I. After Kia is in the carriage getting food, she speaks to us. You should have listened to Kia. You mean like how you did back in the carriage? This is different. Kia's concerns about being seen are serious. Yes, of course. Miss Piper, thanks to Sierra, we all knew that nothing dreadful is going to happen. I don't need to be bait. He's correct. Stop harassing him. She shakes her head, beginning to show signs of annoyance herself. This isn't a vacation. You can't do everything you want. Why did you even come on this trip? This has nothing to do with you. Considering I'm already here, it doesn't really matter, I would think. No, I believe Sierra makes a good point. I too have wondered what you intend to gain by participating in this. I have the kind of experience this expedition needs, and had time to provide it. A person in my position is almost obligated to help. What do you mean by experience? Among other things, dealing with bounty hunters. Really? And how does one come by such experience? Pepper laughs lightly, then perhaps not so flippantly as usual. Now this is a proper interrogation, huh? Generally people already know or don't care. January and I keep looking at her expectantly. If you must know, I'm not from Meyer. I'm just vacationing here for a while from my actual jobs. I still work part-time, though. That's beside the point. How ironic. You specifically pointed out how this was not a vacation, and yet the only reason you're here is because you actually are on vacation. True. That is funny. Piper gives a tight smile. Indeed. Anyway, my usual work is cartographer and collector. Since I specialize in some expensive stuff, I often run into bounty hunters looking to make a profit of their own. I've dealt with them many times, which is why my skills will be useful here. That seems like a rather unpleasant lifestyle, if you ask me. Yes. However, I still find it odd you decided to join simply for generosity's sake. Well, I suppose I am getting something out of this, but you would have thought poorly of me if I just mentioned that, this will be a nice point on our resume. Okay. In all honesty, Duke, the main reason I'm doing this is because I know with certainty the chance of success would have been lower without me, and watching someone walk off into a chase with Trinette may as well be watching someone walk off to the slaughter. She is ruthless.